It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
It is Monday on the Sports Blitz. Thank you for joining us today. Martin Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lasser inside the Cogswell Motors Studios. Got a lot of stuff to talk about today. A lot of stuff happened over the weekend. World Cup. I told you how it was going to go, didn't I?
You did.
Germany, the Fighting Liechtensteiners or whatever, won the World Cup with an extra time goal over Argentina. Attaboy, Spreckenzy, something.
Was it Goetz? Was his name, or I'm how you spell it, G-O-T-Z-E?
Can I be honest? I didn't watch the game. I don't know. Yeah. I had a meeting at the church. I didn't watch the game. I don't care.
But you recorded it, right?
But I did tell you who was going to win Wimbledon. I told you who was going to win the World Cup. If you want to know anything else, check out my next feature in ESPN The Ocho. It'll be out next month.
If you don't want to get struck by lightning, stay away from him.
Obscure Sports Quarterly. It'll be out here in a little bit. But we've got some NBA news. We broke the news to you on Friday. I know you heard it here first that LeBron James is now going back. He's going home. And by now you've had time to digest it. You've had time to watch and listen to all the coverage of LeBron James deciding to go back to Cleveland, play for the Cavaliers. The dominoes started falling. We knew they would, and boy, did they ever.
They really did, Mark. We've got so many different deals to look at. Obviously, LeBron going to Cleveland was the first huge domino. Then that left Miami in a situation. They ended up re-signing Bosh for a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
And then Carmelo Anthony, to a surprise of not many people, he ended up going back to New York for the near max, 122, 129. I think it was so nice of him not to take that other $7 million, don't you, Mark?
Yeah, well, he was just trying to be all things to all people. Yeah, he wanted to be a team player.
He's taking less money to go back to the Knicks. Miami, I want to talk about that. How do we see this East now? Miami, I don't think they're going away altogether as far as just the doldrums of the East. So, Cleveland's got a lot of work to do to put new pieces together. So, obviously, Pau Gasol signing with Chicago, of course, another huge domino. So that East is interesting too.
The East is really interesting. I was looking at the Heat and the moves that they made. If they're going to keep Dwayne Wade, they're going to give him a big contract. But just thinking about the numbers and the fact that LeBron was due to make about 20 and Luol Deng's going to make about 10, they didn't give Bosh that big of a raise as far as per year. So they've got some money still to spend. Yeah. Now there's some news about this player or that player going to Miami, and they technically, I think they have to. I'm not a capologist, but I think they have to stay over the cap to be able to use the money that they were given to McRoberts and Granger. Right. To use all that, to have that money, they have to stay over the salary cap. So they have to spend this money, and they're going to be a pretty good, probably even deeper team this year, but they don't have the best player in the world anymore.
No, they don't. Of course, the elephant in the room when it comes to Miami is D. Wade. I've told you after the finals, I believe if he's going to drop 10 to 15 pounds, I think he's going to look as good as we've seen. We don't know it. I can't sit here and guarantee you that's going to happen, but I'm a little bit excited to see D-Wade. It wasn't just that LeBron was overshadowing him, but it was also he wasn't healthy. I think they could have played a little more two-man game, but I think Wade had to defer, not because he wanted to, but because of health. So him being the man again, him being in charge, him being lighter and healthier. Yes, he's 32, but I think we could see something from it. It'll be exciting. He'll have Chris Bosh, who obviously he becomes more of a pivotal role, more assertive, a bigger part of it. So, I don't think Miami was in terrible shape. Certainly, you wouldn't favor them to win the East again, but I think they can be a factor. I think they can be in the top half of the East, actually, given how weak it is. I mean, some people like Washington and some Toronto maybe, but still, Miami's not in terrible shape because I believe in D. Wade.
We're going to look at the changing landscape of the NBA, the East and the West here in just a moment. But we'll get started with local sports. Weldon got to go to watch a 7-on-7 camp. I watched a team camp on Thursday, so we'll tell you a little bit about those things. Congratulations to the River Valley Tropics. Thank you to Brent Tinkley for sending me information on the Legion baseball team, the River Valley Tropics. They beat the defending champs from Harrison 7-0. Jace Hudson, my boy from Clarksville, pitched a gem, obviously a complete game shutout, and he's going to head on to Southern Arkansas here in a couple months. I guess it's less than a couple months now, just about a month before he reports, and he's going to play his college ball there. But the Tropics are leading the conference there in the Legion Baseball Summer League. So congratulations to those guys. Keep up the good work. We think that you guys are going to have a shot at winning a state championship and going far this summer. And then also, like I mentioned, we were talking about this earlier. Team camp this Thursday. Last Thursday I got to watch Clarksville and Russellville. You can go check out the photos. They are uploaded now at rivervalleyleader.com. You can check those out, share them, let people know about them, because you may find a picture that I've seen this on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. People will use these pictures as like their profile. When I get a good picture of one person, I try to get as many individual shots as I can, and then the game shots or whatever. But I try to get a bunch of good ones, and I think I got several that are keepable, usable. So go check those out. Got to watch those teams, and Weldon, as you know, both of those teams replacing quarterbacks, Russellville and Clarksville, speaking of, both of those teams with lots of new stuff going on. Russellville has a new defensive coordinator, and I'll get his name here in a second. It's escaping me. Clarksville got a whole new staff,
right?
A whole new coach, Coach Eli Craner, getting his system in, and instead of a running-based attack, it's going to be a speed-based attack, and Eli Craner is going to be running them into what they've called the danger zone, and he's going to try his best. Yeah, you like the song, don't you? You got some Kenny Loggins flowing through your mind, but you've got Eli Craner doing some work with his Panthers, and Russellville doing some work. And I know you saw Russellville later on in the week. Both of them obviously have a lot of stuff that they want to work on, but it's good that they can get this work in early July.
Yeah, it is. I mean, start with Clarksville. It's going to be a process because what they're doing is they're changing a culture. Not just changing what's going on the field. To run what they want to run, the up-tempo system. It's not just about the X's and the O's. I mean, that's a part of it, but you look at these spread systems. A lot of it is about the philosophy and embedding the culture more so than executing the plays. And I think as Coach Craner continues with that group, they're going to embody that more and more. It may not happen tomorrow. It may not happen next week, but at some point you expect them to get that down. On Russellville, I mean, they're replacing some weapons, quarterback, receivers, although they have some weapons coming back. It's going to be a different looking offense. I've talked to some people. Of course, you can't tell much from 7-on-7 other than the passing game. But at the same time, from the people I've talked to around the program, they're going to be, trying to run the football a little bit more. You may see, a little bit of an Auburn flavor to what they're doing. But, it happens when you replace a Cody Jones, who was a really good quarterback. So it's a process. Russellville, they struggled a little bit in Little Rock at the Garrett Eggman Foundation tournament. I was there watching Sylvan Hills, and actually they won the tournament. So I want to thank those kids who invited me out to come watch them. So for the Cyclones, it's just another part of the process. Team camps, as we've said before, Mark, that's taking precedent really over 7-on-7. 7-on-7 used to be a big deal, new thing, 10, 12 years ago. Now team camps are what's hot, getting 11-on-11 work. So how you perform in those things is a better indicator of what you'll do this season.
Definitely. And as we mentioned on Friday, Russellville has a new defensive coordinator, Coach Holt. He's an offensive genius. He talked about how he brought in the revolutionary type attack a decade ago to Russellville. And now David Wheeler is the new defensive coordinator. He's got college coaching experience. He was at Arkansas Tech. He was at Ole Miss with Houston Nutt. He's had some good experience, and he's replacing Coach Jones. His son goes on to Lyon College, and he doesn't have a kid in the he doesn't have a dog in the fight, so to say, anymore. So now he's taken his liberty to step down, and Coach David Wheeler is going to be the new defensive coordinator. As you can imagine, some growing pains. They haven't even had time to really install the defense, so it's basically here's some you can speak to this, right, as far as what goes on when you are brand new and how you get reps without them knowing your system. I'm sure he just plugged them in to spots and said, this is what we're going to do philosophically. We'll work on the details later. Yeah,
especially in this case on the defensive side of the ball. You're going to put in base stuff, especially 7-on-7. You're going to put in cover 3, you're going to put in quarters coverage. And the thing is, players know where to be. You can know by playing Madden where to be in coverages. The thing is, and where people fall short and struggle is they don't know the rules of the coverage. Like, if you're a corner, it's like, okay, I know I'm in the flats, but what are my rules? What if 1 goes inside and 2 comes out? What are our rules to playing coverage and different things with 7-on-7 or in certain coverages? And so those are the things where you're going to struggle with. Put guys out there. There's going to be huge holes in your defense. It's going to look like Swiss cheese, but it's early in the process. And then offensively, obviously, timing and rhythm is really difficult when you first put a system in.
So they're working out the kinks with Russellville with the new defensive coordinator. They're going to be pretty good. They've got some athletes, man. I saw a kid out there who I bet you he was 6'4", about 275. This kid, and he looked young. He looked, pardon the expression, he looked kind of soft, like he was going to use some seasoning. He might have been a sophomore, but he is going to be a beast. And they've got some kids who can play. We know Tony Jones. I got to see him. He came out and shook my hand. I like Tony. He's a good kid. He's a fan of the show, so I hope you're listening today. Tony Jones, Kentrell Scott. They've got Coach East, Temple Laws. They've got some dudes who can go. So Russellville's going to be all right. Clarksville working in some new folks as well. They're running in a 2-quarterback system. Steve Spurrier used to run in the 2-quarterback system. They're 2 schools of thought. You've either got 2 quarterbacks who do 2 things well, or you've got the old adage, if you've got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one.
Right.
And Clarksville's trying to figure out what they've got as far as a quarterback goes, and Eli Craner doing his due diligence to find out which one he's going to count on. He may count on both of them. We'll see for Clarksville. As of right now, inside information, don't tell anybody I told you this, but right now they've got one guy who is better with the deep ball and one guy who's better with touch, short.
Right.
And that can't happen in a game. You can't have the touch guy come in because everybody knows where he's throwing it. You can't have the deep ball guy coming in because everybody knows where he's going to throw it. So they're going to have to figure that out, and they will. They'll do a good job. They've got some good running backs, the White brothers, and they've got some.
That's their name,
they've got some
right?
talent. They're white.
I just want to make sure
Jason and Brian White, they're brothers. They're not even white. They're Hispanic, so they're not white.
I'm just making
Yeah, I'm
My name is
brownish. I don't know. So no, I'm not going there. But anyway, the Panthers are going to look to bounce back. What they're going to do is going to be unorthodox. That's what they're going to be. They're going to be a team that puts a lot of pressure on you offensively. They're going to put some pressure on you defensively, and they're going to be a fun team to watch. So they can play in some high-scoring games this year. We'll just get ready for that. Hopefully the high scores on the right side, though. That's what Eli Craner's looking for. That's what they're going to do. They're going to be ultra-aggressive, and they're going to try their best to put pressure on the other team.
Well, when you play that type of offense, you really need to be. You do yourself a disservice when you play conservative offense or defense with an up-tempo offense. So I expect them to get after it. They may get burned some, but I think they'll force turnovers too.
They definitely are going to have to force some turnovers because their offense is going to be – their defense is probably going to get tired of being on the field so much if the offense – especially if the offense struggles. And either way, if the offense is doing perfect, they're going to be out on the field a lot in the defense. So they're going to have to force some turnovers to get the offense back out there, and then they put people in the danger zone, right, Eli? I think that's what he's looking for. We're going to hit our first break. When we come back, lots and lots of NBA transactions. We'll catch you up.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
We are back here on a Monday. Appreciate old David stepping in. David Brown is our producer today. Maddie's off doing important Maddie-like things in the other room. Got a meeting going on with the town news guru, Mr. Gary Sosnicki, and we appreciate David taking over for Maddie back here on a Monday on the Sports Blitz. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, and I said Dave Brown here in the Cogswell Motors studios. We're going to hit NBA free agency here in just a moment. Today, we're also going to hit, and I didn't do a good job of telling you what all we're going to get to today. Hog Talk. This is SEC Media Days beginning this week,
right?
And so it's really officially football season is starting because the conversation goes from here. We'll talk about the Razorbacks, see if there's anything big that comes out of Media Days between now and the time we leave the air today. We'll also look at some summer basketball, LeBron James basketball camp. There was a lot of talk about where he was going to go. Well, there was actually a camp going on there, too, for the best high school and college players in the country. Bobby Portis and Michael Qualls, both there and both playing very well. So we'll look at that here in just a little bit. Also, the World Cup, Germany wins 1-0. Messi was named player of the tournament. And a lot of people are a little up in arms about that. It's like Jerry West being named the MVP when his team lost in the finals.
Yeah, I don't like that. I think, there may be a more outstanding player on the losing team individually, but how could he be the most valuable? I mean, his team didn't win. I mean, I know Germany. You say, well, they're more of a team. They're more balanced. It's hard to pick out one guy.
Didn't they have a dude get like a hat trick in one game, and then another dude who broke the all-time scoring record?
Yeah, I got the Mueller.
You might want to pick one of those guys.
Look at one of those. I mean, look, Messi's the best player on the planet. I mean, that's why I picked Argentina. Argentina's not that good of a team. I mean, like you take Messi off there, and like they're worse than the U.S. I mean, they're just not very good. But he's special. He's the best player. But the bottom line is their team didn't win, and Germany did. They had Mueller and some other guys who scored goals and what have you. So I didn't like that touch. I wish Germany had won. Even though I picked Argentina, you picked Germany. I just think that would have been fair.
Man, Argentina legend Diego Maradona. Remember
I remember
whole,
Maradona.
What do they call it? The hand of God. When he handball that apparently was a handball that he scored on and won a very important match way back when. Don't know where. Don't know where, but he did something really important once. He's from Argentina, and he blasted FIFA for giving Messi the award. He called it a marketing plan. Basically, they wanted people to see Messi with that trophy, their best player in the world, with that trophy in his hand, instead of giving it to somebody who probably deserved it more, somebody who won and had a better tournament. Messi's great. He is great. He actually makes me, when I watch soccer, there are a couple things that catch my eye. Guys who can head it in from a million feet away or put it right where they want to, or somebody who can bend it like crazy or something like. But Messi, passing, shooting, just being in the right place at the right time. He seems to be a guy that he's just very, very, very good. So if I can tell that as my GED soccer knowledge, I can promise you that everybody else knows how good he is, and the people who really care about soccer understand. So Let's look real quickly at the NBA as free agency, man. It was all hinging and waiting on LeBron James, and Friday, just about 11:15, we were coming back from our first break. I see this post from Sports Illustrated. I open it up, and it says, "I'm coming home." And, I've seen all these things on Twitter where it's like a picture of LeBron wearing a different uniform, and then when you click on it, it says, share or retweet to scare your friends. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
It's trying to send him to whatever place and just make it a big viral news story. Well, I was trying to be as careful as I could. This letter, the essay, the letter, whatever you want to call it, that LeBron James wrote for Sports Illustrated, or at least gave the inspiration for, and Lee Jenkins wrote it. It was legit, and LeBron James is going back to Cleveland. I found it interesting when there were a lot of layers to this, and we'll talk about the dominoes that fell after, but found it interesting that he signed a 2-year, $42 million contract rather than going full-term max deal like he could have.
Right.
But LeBron James, at the end of the day, is going back to Cleveland. He's going home. They have forgiven him. LeBron James, overnight, became an icon. He became a guy who everybody hated for one reason or another, to people that I knew that couldn't stand him that are now going to root for him. He changed everything in his life in one day.
It's really interesting. Now that we've had a few days to process, what's going on and let it soak in. I think the question a lot of people are asking right now is, has LeBron's mind changed? Has his heart, has what he's driving towards changed? Is he more into this, let's build something special, let's build something bigger than basketball? I want to have more meaning than just pursuing Michael Jordan or just pursuing Kobe Bryant, because I think it's a fair question to ask. Even though Miami, with Dwayne Wade's questionable health, even though that wasn't a slam dunk basketball situation, I think LeBron understands going to Cleveland is taking at least a slight step back in his championship pursuit. Although they have some good players, they'll be competitive. He even said in his essay, I'm not going to promise a championship. My patience will be tested. It's not going to happen overnight, things to that effect. So I guess I'm wondering now, is in his heart of hearts, is what's taking over is, I want to do something special for Northeast Ohio, inside with basketball and outside of basketball, and maybe not give up on winning championships by no means, but it's going to take a little bit of a back seat to this greater thing. That's a question that's out there.
He did talk about how it was bigger than basketball. This is what I think. I think he doesn't necessarily want to worry about the grind of going to and winning championships every single year. He understands that if he wins one in Cleveland,
right.
And I'm not saying LeBron's going to go into any season ever expecting not to win or not trying to win, but if he wins one for a city that's gone 50 years without a championship, he's, I don't want to say where people are going to put him. A lot of people are going to put him way up there, but they'll put him on their exactly. Yeah. They'll put him right below or right at Michael Jordan level. And the Cleveland, if he wins a championship in Cleveland, people in Cleveland are going to put him over the top as far as in their mind.
Right.
But he's going to make some good money. I think LeBron thinks about things in a completely different. I guess it was Bill Simmons who wrote about how LeBron James is a genius and an athletic genius, just really a really smart guy about the way he thinks about things. We talked about how he would take less money to go back to the Heat. And then he comes out and says, I want a max contract, and we're thinking, why would you do that? And then we think about the fact that he represents the players' union. The players want to make the max money that they possibly can. The guys who make $500,000 a year, which is now the new minimum, they aren't guaranteed to be set for life after they play in their 3 or 4 years of their career. So he's trying to look out for those guys that are way down there, and by taking less money, he's basically undercutting those guys as well. So he thinks about it from that term, the big picture, and then he thinks about it for himself as far as his brand. He thinks about how much money he's going to make in Cleveland. He's going to be able to endorse literally anything he wants. He's going to be able to make unlimited money off the court. He also, and this is why I think he's thinking about this big picture, macro type thought rather than just this real close, okay, I'll take $120 million over 5 years. He knows that the TV deal is coming up and that he's going to have an opportunity to get way more max dollars after this 2-year deal.
Right.
So what he said to Cleveland is, I'm committed to the long term. I want to be here the rest of my career, but I'm going to sign a 2-year deal because after this collective bargaining agreement, the new max after the new TV deal is going to be incredibly higher, and I'm not going to lock myself in for 5 years when I can lock myself in for 2 and then make nearly double the money possibly. So LeBron is thinking about these things in a big picture and long term, and I really think he wants to win a championship. Also, and I know I'm laying a lot here for you to hit.
No, go ahead.
But what do you think about his meeting with Dan Gilbert, which, a lot of folks saying they didn't meet, and they did. They met before on that Sunday.
Yeah.
Everybody was following Dan Gilbert's plane. He was on that plane, even though he said he wasn't. Mm-hmm. Do you think in that meeting Dan Gilbert told him this is going to be a rebuilding thing, or did you think he said, we're going to get Kevin Love, and we're going to be competitive right now? And do you think LeBron considered that in the whole process?
I think Dan Gilbert, obviously the hatchet, they need to bury the hatchet. That was a requirement. But I don't think he let Dan Gilbert factor a whole lot in his decision. I think as long as the air was cleared and as long as he knew that it wasn't a lot of bad blood, he was still thinking about Cleveland, the bigger picture, his city, his home area, I should say. I think that was the weighing factor. Now, if Gilbert was still had ill will toward him or anything like that, then, I don't think he would have gone back to Cleveland. But I will say this, though, from a basketball standpoint. It's going to be tough. Look, I think Cleveland will be in the mix in the East, but it's going to be tough. And one thing that I want to caution people with is, we hear guys like Kyrie Irving, to a lesser degree, Tristan Thompson, and we see their stats. And Kyrie, we see him, on All-Star Weekend. Other than stats in the All-Star game, we haven't really seen Kyrie Irving play on a consistent basis. But now, they're going to be on ABC every, Sunday, or a lot of Sundays now, a lot of showcase games. Part of me thinks that we're going to be a little bit, not a lot, little bit disappointed in what Kyrie does on a good team competing. He's going to be a really good player, but I think we're going to be like, Kyrie, I thought he was this. I thought he was a little bit of that. Look, he's a great player, but just for perspective, I think they're going to be a little bit of a disappointment as far as how good he is on a good team. Because, again, all we've really gone by, we've seen him play here and there in All-Star. We've seen his stats. But when it comes to playing with LeBron, playing against good teams, competing for a championship, I think we're kind of going to have a kind of moment. I just want to brace everybody for that because – it's going to be tough in Cleveland. I'm not going to lie. They're not ready to win right now. If they get Kevin Love, I think we agree. That's a whole different ballgame. But as is, it's going to be tough. You got Chicago now with Pau Gasol. You've got, Indiana. If they get Stevenson back, there's some other teams in there too. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. And I don't know, Mark. I want you to answer this. Are we going to go back to saying he needs some help or he's doing it by himself? Because that's the question I'm wondering. Is that on the horizon, do you think?
It could be. If Kyrie Irving's scoring 20 points a game, I think Dwayne Wade scored a little more than that at the very beginning of their time together. I think Kyrie Irving can be a poor man's Dwayne Wade, and if he can stay healthy, he can be a guy. 20 points, 6 assists, and 3 rebounds a game. I assume that his assist numbers will probably stay about the same, maybe dip a little bit because LeBron will handle the ball some and get some assists there. His rebounds probably stay about the same. If he can score that well, take some pressure off LeBron, he can really be very effective. You got a guy like Anthony Bennett, who you've seen him this summer. He looks really good.
Oh, that's nice.
Slimmed up and looking really good. And then Andrew Wiggins, who may or may not be in the trade to get Kevin Love if that ever materializes. But I think Kyrie Irving his positives can be accentuated. His negatives can be hidden by the greatness of LeBron.
Sure.
But to your point is well taken. He's going to have to play a different type of game. It's not going to be this front run or this my team sucks, so I'm going to go out there and just put up big numbers and get mine type thing. He's going to have to play winning basketball. But I think part of that is going to have to be taking on the mentality of LeBron. You've got LeBron James on your team. You've got a guy who he doesn't play around. He doesn't want to lose. I better play. I better try on the defensive end. I better not take stupid shots on the offensive end. That's why they got to trade Dion Waiters, and everything I've seen of him has just been chucking. So,
well, let me say that. Let me get to that though. Like, I know you're not a Waiters guy. I'm not a huge Waiters guy, but here's why I do kind of like him. he is an unapologetic scorer. And I like guys who are unapologetic. Now, he hasn't been efficient, but when you play with LeBron James, I'm tired of watching. I know you feel me on this. I'm tired of watching guys play with LeBron, and they might as well have some popcorn and a soda because they just want to stand and watch him. And I don't think Dwayne Wade wanted to do that, but I think his health kind of made him like that. But I want to see LeBron play with people who are just unapologetic. I'm talking like the Rudy Gay's, J.R. Smiths. I mean, those types of guys because, yeah, they take inefficient shots when there's nobody to rein them in. But you got LeBron James now. LeBron James is going to get you shots, and when you take bad shots, he's going to put you in check. Yep. And so a guy like Waiters, and if they get Kevin Love and they can get him, then sure, deal him. Now, I'm not even going to question it. But Andrew Wiggins, is he going to be assertive enough to say, okay, LeBron, I'm on your team, but I'm not going to be I'm not going to just stand there and watch you. I'm going to be a player too. I'm going to be aggressive too. Because other than maybe a Larry Hughes a little bit, and they weren't very good then, I don't know if LeBron's ever played with a guy that just has no conscience. And I think that's a good type of player for him to be with, a guy who doesn't have a conscience. I think LeBron would make Waiters a good player. And I think he and Kyrie, their little beef they have, I think that goes away with LeBron because
there can't be any of that.
No, because here's the thing though, it's social dynamics. As long as Kyrie is a really good player but not a superstar, Waiters sees the team there for the taking. You know, he's like, Kyrie is good, but when you have LeBron,
I can be the best player.
You got the king, you got the man on the team. There is no question. You children, Kyrie and Dion, you go sit down. No question about it. Yeah. But without LeBron, there's a fight over it. So
That's a good point.
I think it could work. You know, all those guys if they can't get Kevin Love, but if they can get Love, deal anybody. You know, except Wiggins if you can keep him.
See, that's the thought right now. The Cleveland roster is either going to look exactly the same or completely different. There's not going to be just a little tweak here or there. It's going to either look exactly like they've got or totally retooled. The Cavs have offered Anthony Bennett, Dion Waiters, and a #1 pick next year to Minnesota, and it's reportedly been vetoed. It's been no. We'll turn it down because they want Andrew Wiggins. Well, Cleveland is under the impression that we're not going to trade Andrew Wiggins. So my thought, I've been thinking about this. I want Kevin Love to go to Cleveland. I want LeBron to play. I'm selfish. I want him to have all the good players on his team. Just load up. But I try to think about this from both sides. If you're Cleveland, you can give up Andrew Wiggins and Dion Waiters, and you might be able to get him for that without the #1 pick. If you keep all those guys, you're not going to be able to compete for a championship. But if you're Minnesota and you don't trade Kevin Love, he's going to walk for nothing next year.
Yeah.
What can Minnesota get? I mean, they're not going to get Klay Thompson out of Golden State. So what can they get in the next 6 to 8 months that it will avoid them losing Kevin Love for nothing?
And that's the thing. I think their hope is that, well, somebody will get a little more desperate come trade deadline. I think that's the only thing they can be thinking. Otherwise, I think they would have pulled the trigger on something right now. I mean, Minnesota wants a player. They want some youth and some picks and things in the future, assets, but they'd want at least one person who can come play right now, like somebody who can come in and score, close to 20 points a game for them now. Flip Saunders is back, coaching them. Of course, he was coaching them when they had their highs, the Kevin Garnett era. That's why he wanted Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson's somebody who is young but can come in right now and put up points. So I don't know if that guy is out there for him. I think they're just hoping somebody will get desperate come trade deadline time. But I don't know if I see.
It'd be hard for me to pass up last year's #1, who's actually looking good.
Yeah.
I know they want Andrew Wiggins, but at the end of the day, man, if I'm Minnesota, how much better of an offer am I going to get than a guy in Dion Waiters who averaged 16 last year, and then a #1 pick who's looking pretty good, and then a #1 pick next year? I don't know if you can get much better.
Look at you now. Now you're trying to get
rid
of
I know. I'm just saying I don't like him. I'm saying I don't like him. To your point, though, I think he can help. He'll stretch the floor. He'll be a guy that, Jamal Crawford type, don't have a conscience. I'm just going to come in and score. I don't like guys that are selfish. That's just what he seems like to me, and I don't know him personally, so I can't really say too much. But if I'm Minnesota, man, I'm trying to get something for Kevin Love before the season starts. I don't want this drama hanging over my head, a lame duck guy.
Yeah.
A lot of people in contract years play outside their minds. a lot of people in Minnesota have to be thinking about the fact that Kevin Love may have topped out last year.
Yeah.
He may have. I don't know that he can play much better than he did last year. So maybe the offer gets worse because he comes out and he's just, nah, I'm not all here. I know I'm going to go someplace else. I know they're either going to deal me for the best offer or I'm going to walk for more money later. Everybody knows what I can be. He may play crazy, may ball out, and he may just be a little bit less than what he was last year. If I'm Minnesota, I'm trying to make a deal before the season starts.
Yeah, I mean, that's just two ways to look at it. I mean, I don't know. I guess, the way their stance has been, they're doing the let's hold out. We don't have to do anything right now. I guess, we're talking about Cleveland and trading big-time power forwards. I just wonder how history would have been different if Cleveland didn't say, we cannot give up J.J. Hickson for Amari Stoudemire. Nope, sorry, we can't. This is back when Amari was balling, obviously. Yeah. They were like, nope, he's just too young of an asset and too much upside. No, sorry. I mean, I don't know if they would have won it all that year, but
I'm not gonna lie. I was on the side saying I think Hickson could be something. So
yeah, I mean, and look,
I was wrong too.
And look, at the time, I mean, I'm not saying it was anything to be like, oh, that was stupid. I mean, now hindsight's 20/20, but you just wonder if they had pulled that trigger, knowing how Hickson hasn't been elite. He's been okay, hadn't been elite, and Amari was big time back then. How that would have changed the course of history, but they didn't do it. But it just kind of got me thinking about that proposed trade.
All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back and we'll deal with all. We've mentioned most of the other free agent moves, but we'll tell you their length of contract, the numbers they signed for. Some of these guys making bank. We talked before about how I love the fact that I live in a country where guys like Avery Bradley can make $8 million a year.
Yeah,
there are guys who Gordon Hayward, was it 4 years, $63 million for Gordon Hayward?
Utah kept it.
You go, Gordon Hayward. I know he was one of the only players in the league to average like 16, 5, and 5 or something like that this last year. So he played pretty well and he earned his money. So we'll talk about all those guys who earned their money right after this break.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
SEC Media Days underway. Mike's live at the podium as we speak. We'll see if he says anything. Apparently he said, the one thing he said so far that's sort of interesting is that it's not bragging if you can back it up. Talking about the SEC, and it's an old Muhammad Ali quote. We'll see if he says anything else noteworthy during the show. But we're looking at the NBA moves of the weekend and really who's gone where for how much. And LeBron James, the first domino to fall. We talked about that on Friday. And as immediately after LeBron chooses Cleveland, Chris Bosh has an option. He can go to Houston, max salary for 4 years, or he can stay in Miami 5 years, $118 million, a whole lot, $30 million more than Houston could even offer him over that next year. Miami, Mickey Arison, Pat Riley making a statement that, okay, we could suck, we could just let Chris Bosh go, we could be terrible for the next couple of years, or we can try to piece this back together with the Danny Granger, Josh McRoberts, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, eventually Luol Deng. We can do some work to keep this together. It looks like that's the route that Miami's going to go. Chris Bosh got paid.
Yeah, he did get paid, and there's a couple of ways to look at it. Obviously, if you're trying to preserve your status in the Eastern Conference as being a contender, this is a move you needed to make. You make the move with the hopes that you're now going to see more of the Toronto Chris Bosh, and obviously Dwayne Wade getting his body back right and being back in the leadership role. You hope you can see more of the Dwayne Wade you used to see. And if you can get the Toronto Bosh with the older Miami Wade from a few years ago, then you've got something to work with. Luol Deng is a nice piece. Shabazz is a good point guard. So if they can be right back in the thick of a weak Eastern Conference. That being said, the question on the other side of it is, you gave Chris Bosh $118 million to do it. And again, you got to feel like he's going to be back to the Toronto Chris Bosh, because he's just not worth anywhere near that kind of money. I mean, he's a good player. Obviously, he'd be worse without him, but at the same time, that's a lot of money. And obviously, you weren't going to offer him near that when you tried to keep LeBron James. So it's a little bit of a desperate move. They had the option, as you pointed out, to kind of just tank and let it all go, or try to preserve something. Pat Riley's competitive nature taking over. They're going to try to preserve and hold something together. But he got a lot of money. There's no doubt about that.
I think Chris Bosh is worth more money this way than he is with LeBron. So I understand him making some more money. I don't think he's worth $118 million, but I think they did that just so that they could make a point that, and that's an expensive point.
It
but
sure is.
Especially with Chris Bosh saying CB4, the guy that he was in Toronto is no longer. He's not coming back. He's going to be kind of what he's been. Which I think can be effective. But the fact that he's added that outside game to his inside game, I think he can be a really, really good player, really good piece. Of course, things are going to change for Chris Bosh when LeBron James not drawing all the attention.
No.
Dwayne Wade's not going to draw the attention he once did. They're going to have to figure some things out and be different. Mario Chalmers going back to Miami for a 2-year deal, so they're still going to suck at point guard. Now, they're going to have to do some things differently in Miami. The pace and space, it may work, but they don't have the best player in the world anymore, so Miami's just going to look a lot different. They're still going to try to be competitive. In the East, they'll be a top middle of the pack playoff seed at worst, because the 4 of us in this room could probably be a middle of the pack Eastern Conference team. Before I even move on from the East, Paul Pierce, I made mention of it. I thought he was going to go to the Clippers and play for Doc. He's not going to go to the Clippers. Where is Paul Pierce going? Washington Wizards. Yeah, I'm drawing blanks.
Replacing
Trevor Ariza, who went to Houston when Chandler Parsons decided to go to Dallas. So Chandler Parsons gets a 3-year, $45 million deal with, actually I think it's 46 if I'm not mistaken, to go to Dallas. Houston decides not to match that deal. Houston goes to Washington and gets Trevor Ariza, 4 years, $32 million. And then because of that, Paul Pierce goes to replace Trevor Ariza. It's a 2-year deal with the player option for the second year. And then Luol Deng, we mentioned, 2 years, $20 million to the Miami Heat. And then the big one, the shocker of all shockers, Carmelo Anthony, 5 years, $122 million to stay in New York. I'm just blown away with the fact that he is taking $7 million less to play, and that's over the life of a contract, to play in New York. He's a New York boy.
His heart never wavered.
His heart never, ever wavered, even when he saw his own number on somebody else's uniform and realized that, I'd leave a year and $30 million on the table. Color me shocked that Carmelo is going back to New York.
Him, everybody. Get your crayons out and color him.
I'm shocked.
if what you say though, I got to go back. If what you said, Chris Bosh said is true, then this is going to be a train wreck. Because if he really said what you said, that thing, that's the worst thing. So you're gonna tell me I'm paying $118 million for what I saw last year? Is that what he's trying to say?
Well, no, I think the back to the basket, 20 and 10, I shoot it every time I get it type thing.
That's what I need to see. Look, number 6, the big 6'9", 270 dude, it's not there anymore. We paid – look, you make $118 million. You the star. You a superstar. You need to. We running things through you. You the first option. You cannot just be. I'm gonna score 16 points and shoot jump. No. Chris Bosh better get back to being operating, scoring 20-something points. He'd get close to double-figure rebounds. He better go back to Toronto, Chris Bosh, for $118 million. Because do you want to pay that for what you saw last year? I'm gonna feel ripped off if I'm Miami and he gives me last year. No, we got to run things through him. He's a number one option. He's a star, Chris. He can't do that.
Chris Bosh has talked about how he's a better player. ESPN.com True Hoop story by Tom Haberstroh says, quoted Chris Bosh, CB4 is never coming back. Bosh said, referring to his nickname as a Raptor. A few years later, I think I'm a much better player. It's funny. People are saying we need CB4 back. I can't be that. It's impossible. Ugh. I feel like I'm a much better leader and a much better player, more prepared for the role, the all-around role that they need me to fill. That's exciting for me to really challenge myself and step up to the plate next year and to make sure we get it done no matter what happens. He talked about how he's going to go back to being the alpha dog. I guess he's expecting that LeBron's gone, Dwayne Wade's down a notch or 10, and he's going to have to be the man.
Well, I mean, if he's saying that, well, I'm going to shoot jump shots in addition to the other stuff, and that's how he's different, then fine. But if he just thinks he can just be some spot-up player and let Mario Chalmers run things, no, that can't be the case. Chris Bosh got paid like a superstar. He needs to look like one. I have my doubts, which is why I wouldn't have given him that money in the first place, but he has it. He needs to show it.
And here I'm following Yahoo's tracker here, and I'm trying to see if there's anything new that's happened. There's not a whole lot going on right now as far as free agents moving on. But, Ray Allen, let's see. Mark Spears said Heat free agent Ray Allen isn't pressed to choose a team because he isn't certain if he still wants to play or retire. He's going to decide, I guess, based on what the Cleveland Cavaliers and Miami Heat want to offer him. Mm-hmm. He wants to play with LeBron. That's pretty well a given. And then we've heard a lot about Mike Miller and how he canceled a trip and he's canceled talks with everybody. Now I heard yesterday that Mike Miller back to Denver is the number one priority for him. I guess that what Cleveland could offer isn't going to be enough unless they get Kevin Love, and then they can say, look, we're ready made to win a championship. If he'll just come on over here and hit some threes, he'll have to take less money to do it, but it looks like Mike Miller's looking to get paid.
You know what I told you the other day? Mike Miller's already told me what he is, what he's about. I'm not mad at him, but Mike Miller wants to make his money. I mean, look, he could have stayed in Miami. I mean, he could have worked another deal out to less money. I know he had to make less, is why Miami got rid of him, but he went to Memphis and he made some money. Denver, they said he's put the trip on hold. I said, we'll see how that ends up. But if Denver's putting the money out, he's not one of these, veteran role players that, wants to win rings and play for, the near minimum. Mike Miller says, I can shoot the ball. People still pay good money for shooting the ball. I'm taking where people's paying the money. Again, I'm not mad at him about it, but that's how he's operating.
No, you're right. Yeah, that's what he's done, and he's earned the right. So we'll see how it turns out for Mike Miller. Cleveland's got some things up in flux right now, like with going after Kevin Love, with keeping the guys. If they're watching Summer League, they're seeing Bennett and they're seeing Wiggins, and they're thinking, this team could be pretty good. I'm gonna have to give up one of these two guys for Kevin Love. That's going to be tough. I mean, But the flip side is they're not going to be ready made to win a championship, right now if they don't. And there's no reason to not be. If you can make a championship run right now, and Kevin Love's 25. Right. You can make 5 more championship runs in LeBron's prime. It'd probably be worth it almost no matter what the cost is to get that big three together with LeBron and Kyrie and Kevin Love. So we'll see.
Well, I know we're heading out. Can I ask you something real quick, though? Because, we're headed down the road, and I just mentioned this earlier. We're headed down the road of you having to fight people on Twitter when Cleveland's not getting it done against good teams and LeBron's the only player. Are you ready to take that fight back home? Because it's going to be that LeBron doesn't have enough help, and then they may lose in the Eastern Finals, whatever. Feel like it's almost smelling like a few years ago. Are you ready for that again?
It'll be all right. Look, I've been a LeBron fan, and I've had it both ways. I like it better when he's good and he's winning, so I can just sit there with a smile on my face. I try not to gloat too much, and I've been through it all with LeBron, with the crappy early Cleveland teams,
right,
with the teams that couldn't get it done, to then Miami when they lost, and then when they win, and now they lose again. So I've been through the ringer of emotions with LeBron, and I've had to defend him a bunch of different times in a bunch of different ways. I'll just go ahead and do it if I need to.
Just do what you have to.
Look, I call it like I see it. I've said it more than once. LeBron, in Game 1 of the Finals when he's cramping up, I'm like, come on, give me a break.
Right.
Turns out I was a big idiot for that. But then back in the Boston series and then in the Mavs series, I'm thinking, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah.
And so I've been a critic too. So I'm not just all an apologist. I will do that, but I'm not all there. So we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. If LeBron if he doesn't have the help and he doesn't win because of the fact that he's doing all he can and nobody else is doing anything, then we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So we'll see about that. We've got SEC Media Days. We're going to hit a break. We've got SEC Media Days, Qualls and Portis at LeBron's basketball camp. We'll talk a little bit about those things and a little bit more as we tie a bow on a Monday. We'll be back right after this.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
Updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the 4s.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
All right, Hog Talk here on the Sports Blitz on a Monday. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lassiter, and Dave Brown here in the Cogswell Motors studio. Going to finish up a Monday show. Appreciate you joining us today. As always, you can give us a call at 968-NEWS. Got a few minutes left. 968-6397. You can be a part of the show. LeBron James basketball camp. He's been the topic of conversation all day. Might as well continue it. He had a basketball camp in Vegas over the last week, and Michael Qualls and Bobby Portis, both available, both invited, and both made the trip out there. Heard good things about both of them. Heard about the motor and the energy of Bobby Portis and how well he shot the ball. Heard a lot of good things, obviously, about Michael Qualls' athleticism and ability to knock down a shot. Hopefully, Michael is able to improve his ball handling ability and decision making. Those are the two things that I think he can do a much better job at. And if Bobby Portis can shoot the ball at a higher level, he's worked on his inside game. I'm sure he's put on 10 or 12 pounds at least.
Right.
He's going to continue to get better. He's one of those guys that I see play, and I think this guy's going to do what it takes to be great. He's going to do what it takes. I saw he put on Twitter or Instagram a post about how he's trying to improve to make his mom's life better, and like that's the kind of guy that Portis is. So I don't have any issues or believing that he's going to be a great player and he's going to put the work in. But it's interesting to see Michael Qualls, and heard some good things over the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think when you look at this Arkansas basketball team coming up this season, you look at their recruiting class, and those guys will help. Anton Beard, obviously, Nick Babb, Trey Thompson. But I think the biggest jump and the biggest addition to this team will be the improvement of the current players. To me, that's going to make or break whether or not this is an NCAA tournament team. No offense to the 3 recruits, but I don't see any of them as being dynamic to where they're going to just be the ultimate difference. Again, maybe Beard because he's a stable point guard, but other than that, if this team is going to really make that jump, it's going to have to be with Michael Qualls being a better ball handler, better decision maker. It's going to have to be Bobby Portis being physically tougher inside, not getting pushed around, being able to clean up on the glass, being more of a dominant presence on the interior. Obviously a Kai Madden, being a consistent scorer. These guys on the team are going to have to be better. Landis Harris has to be a lot better. We know he can play. We've seen it in the past. So we just didn't see it as much last year as we needed to. So all of these guys, I want to see them get a lot better. I know that sounds like a, no duh kind of thing to say, but that's the difference. This team and the players they have something to work with, but they've got to make individual improvements from last year. If they do that, I think they'll be an NCAA tournament team. If not, I've told you I'm going to be extremely disappointed because I have high expectations for this team, at least getting into the tournament and maybe making a little bit of noise.
No, I'm the same way. I think that they're primed, and this is it. He's got the point guard. He's got the good player in Bobby Portis inside. He's got Michael Qualls, who's playing well this summer. There are no more excuses, like you said, for the Razorbacks basketball team to reach at least some level of success this year. Tournament. You got to go to the tournament. I mean, NIT one and done, it's just not working.
No.
So Razorbacks have got to make that next jump and go to the NCAA tournament. Hopefully guys like Anton Beard, Nick Babb, those guys can step in and have an impact, and Bobby and Michael can help step them up to the next level and just move them up. Reading some quotes here on Twitter from Commissioner Slive and from the SEC Media Days. They've got a new trophy that's coming out for the college football playoff. I did see that, I saw something on the college football playoff just a moment ago that I thought was good. I might have retweeted it, so let me go back. I did see that Mike Slive said about the SEC network that there are ongoing significant conversations with other providers. That's DirecTV.
Yeah.
They've got Dish. They've got some cable people. Probably Suddenlink maybe is one of the ones that he's talking about, but Comcast or Cox, one of the two, is definitely on. I know Dish is definitely on. So there are a bunch of folks who are getting the SEC network. I've said it more than once. DirecTV is going to have the SEC network. There's just no, because the largest provider in the country as far as, or at least around here, you can't not have the SEC network and be successful. They're going to have too many people dropping them if they don't. So they're going to eventually have them, and Mike Slive's speaking to as much.
Man, is the Paul Bunyan cable network not going to pick it up? Because that's what I'm going to be watching this fall.
Oh, man.
The Paul Bunyan cable network has to pick it up. I mean, it's just a must. I don't know what I'm going to do, trying to watch some SEC football in Minnesota. I'll probably be too busy anyway. But still, hopefully a deal gets done. We'll see how it goes. But, one other thing that Commissioner Slive talked about, a couple other notes, is autonomy. We know that's an ongoing discussion among the Power 5 conferences. And another thing that's interesting are bowl selection as far as teams. It used to be, the bowl games would have a lot of say-so. I mean, they would work with conferences, but ultimately, they picked who they wanted as far as their affiliate from your conference. But now it looks like the league is going to be sending teams and slotting teams how they want them to fit in certain bowl games. So it's kind of interesting, the conferences sort of dictating matchups and putting teams in certain places. I think that's a little bit different than what we've seen in years past.
Real quickly, though, before we've got about a minute left, we need to get out of here. We'll recap some of the conversations. Mike's live talking about the NCAA need for change and the autonomy that the Big Five conferences want and what's going to happen if they don't get that. Basically, he's saying if we don't get what we want, we're going to break off and we're going to start a Division 4 or we're going to start another Division 1, and you guys are all going to get to go down because we're going to be more powerful. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And we'll see how that turns out. But Arkansas plays Auburn. Game 1. Was it August 31st? Is that the
30th?
30th. August 30th. Arkansas plays Auburn. Game 1 of the football season. And Auburn's dealing with some issues right now. Nick Marshall, starting quarterback, caught with the weed.
Duh.
Less than an ounce of weed. I like how people say it's less than an ounce of weed. Yeah. Dude, an ounce of weed's a lot. Like, just Google. Yeah, exactly. I had an ounce of weed. No, he gets caught with all this weed. Now the conversation is, what kind of punishment is he going to get? I'll tell you, St. Gus ain't going to suspend him for the Arkansas game. Promise you that. He was knocked out of SEC Media Days. He was probably slapped very, very firmly upon the wrist, and he's going to be back for Arkansas. I almost guarantee you.
Yeah, it'd be funny if he suspended him the next week. That'd be really funny.
Yeah, it's the Ohio State stuff. We're going to suspend you next year. You better promise us you're coming back.
Yeah. We're gonna play you in this Sugar Bowl, boy, next year against Ball State. Well, you can't play in that big matchup, but you can play in this Sugar Bowl here. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it's just it would be funny, like I said, if he suspended him the next game. I'd just be like, kind of jamming it right at Arkansas a little bit. But he and Coach Bielema, they're not speaking on the same day today, which this year I'm a little disappointed. I think Coach Malzahn actually first up to the podium as far as coaches. Coach Bielema, was he later this week?
I hadn't looked.
Yeah, I think he's going to come in a little bit later in the week and talk about Arkansas a little bit. But I don't think Nick Marshall gets suspended. He'll get a slap on the wrist, as you said. He'll get some form of discipline. I know Gus isn't running a zoo. He does believe in some order, but at the same time, you got an SEC game week 1. We're gonna figure something else out.
Yeah, that's sort of. I'm poking at him because I don't think he's gonna suspend Nick Marshall, but I'm also. This is a time when your integrity is sort of going to be coming into question. If he doesn't come up with some sort of good punishment and he still lets him play, that's going to say a lot. But if he sits him out, that's going to say a whole lot about Gus Malzahn. I've heard, and I don't know because I haven't been there to really do the research, but I've heard that he's got a zero tolerance policy in his program. So zero tolerance, what does that mean? We're about to find out.
I know our Arkansas fans are like, you better stick to that policy, Gus. Yeah. You better stick to it.
Well, sitting over here in Arkansas, I know it's easy to throw stones, but at the same time, Arkansas has had no arrests this year.
Yeah.
They've had 0 arrests. That's something that Brett Bielema has spoken to being important for him. He's not going to have to worry about any suspensions as of right now. So let's knock on wood and hope that Arkansas can continue that streak right now. We've been back several years where it was just like an arrest every other day.
Yeah.
So Arkansas, Tennessee's had 10 players arrested this summer.
That's a problem.
Just this offseason, Arkansas's had none, so there's a little positivity to it.
And if you're Coach Jones at Tennessee, you got to address that. I know you had 17 four-stars come in last year.
He was just going to the penitentiary and picking up dudes that could play.
Yeah, so like Calipari just goes down to the park and finds players. But they're going to have to address that. That can be a problem at Tennessee. The thing is, Coach Bielema has talked this strict game, and he's backed it up. He hasn't backed it up on the field yet, but as far as discipline and keeping the program clean, he's done his job there. Urban Meyer is a guy who's always caught heat throughout his career. It's really been the Achilles heel to as great of a career as he's had. The problem has been he's had a lot of arrests at Florida, Ohio State. These guys get in trouble, but when you win games, it kind of puts it a little bit on the back burner. So I think with Coach Malzahn, that may give him a little bit of a leeway among fans, the fact they're winning. But if they're like 7-5 this year with letting Nick Marshall play, then it's going to be more of an avalanche.
We'll see. We'll see how we've both got our opinion. He'll say a lot with what he does here in this situation with Nick Marshall. Arkansas really doesn't have a chance to win that game if Nick Marshall plays. If he doesn't play, things change.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not saying Arkansas would win that game, but they would have a whole lot better shot. I think Arkansas can make things interesting against Auburn. They can really mess up things with the way that Arkansas can run the ball, a lot different way than the way Auburn runs the ball.
Right.
They can cause some issues. They can mess up the rhythm that Auburn wants to play with. So, all right, let's get out of here. The U.S. For the FIBA International Basketball Tournament, they've selected 19 players for the roster. They're gonna cut that down to the final 12. But Kevin Durant, Kevin Love, James Harden, Anthony Davis, also joined by DeMar DeRozan, Chandler Parsons, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Kyrie Irving, Blake Griffin, Paul George, Damian Lillard, Gordon Hayward, DeMarcus Cousins, Bradley Beal, Andre Drummond, Kenneth Faried, Kyle Korver, and Derrick Rose.
That should be enough to get it done right there. Kyle Korver, I like that. I like that touch in there. Throw Kyle Korver in there. Yeah, they should get it done in basketball.
Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge both off.
Westbrook, too. I hated to see that, too.
Yeah, Westbrook, he needed the rest. Kawhi Leonard wanted the rest. LaMarcus Aldridge, it says that he's been advised that he's not available. He's advised them that he's not available this summer. So they're going to go win the tournament. They're going to have a really good squad to do it. It's going to be interesting to watch. So we'll continue to monitor that and who makes the team, who makes the final 12. That's going to be a tough cut to decide who makes it and who doesn't. All right, plenty of stuff I'm sure going to happen between now and Wednesday, but we'll be back at 11 o'clock with more Sports Blitz. For Weldon, Maddie, and David, I'm Mark saying so long. 11 o'clock on Wednesday, rivervalleyleader.com. We'll be right back.